Hello? Okay, it's 7:10. We're going to start a couple minutes early as far as this part of the program goes. By the way, thank you everyone for coming. We're here on a special night. Tonight, I created a proclamation for an event that's going to happen in about 10 days. And I'd like to take a moment and read this. Fallen Firefighter Memorial Weekend. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States has designated National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend as a time to honor firefighters who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half-staff. International Firefighters Day is observed on the 4th day of May each year to honor firefighters who have died in the line of duty while serving their communities and to appreciate both active and retired firefighters for their dedicated service. Members of the Oswego Fire Department risk their own lives every shift to protect others in the community and all of us in this room. The City of Oswego observes their own fallen firefighters on the first Friday in May with a special ceremony held at the Fire Department headquarters. Therefore, I, Robert A. Corradino, Mayor and Chief Executive of the City of Oswego, now call upon all citizens of the City of Oswego and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the period of May 1st to May 5th, 2024 in recognition of the tremendous service and dedicated efforts of members of the City of Oswego Fire Department, both past and present, by lowering the American flag to half-staff. I encourage citizens and organizations to light the night and display red lights outside their homes or places of business from May 1st to May 5th in 2024 as a salute to fallen firefighters in the City of Oswego and across the globe. I respectfully encourage members of the City of Oswego community to join us for a short ceremony at the Fire Department at 35 East Cayuga Street on Friday, May 3rd, 2024 at 9 a.m., where the fallen members of the City of Oswego Fire Department will be properly honored and remembered. Following the ceremony, members of the public are invited to visit the John D. Murray Firefighters Museum. At this time, I'd like a round of applause for our firefighters. And with that, I'm going to present this proclamation to Chief Canzone, and I invite everybody to show up on May 3rd at 9 a.m. at the City Fire Department. It's 7:15. It's time to open the meeting. And with that, we're going to open public session. I have a number of people signed up. Looks like 9 people. And again, like we've done in the past, if you haven't signed up, we will let you speak afterwards. I ask that everybody try to keep the remarks to 5 minutes. Be polite, and keep in mind that we're trying to be civil for everybody, and no name calling and any other things. Let's keep it civil. With that said, the first person on the list looks like Brian Parkhurst.
Good evening. Gentlemen, there is a resolution on the floor that is of the utmost importance, as you probably are all very well aware. But if the public is not aware, there is a resolution put forth to, what's the word, to reject the 2024 tax assessment rolls is being put on the floor this evening. So I would like to set the format this evening, and I hope everyone in the audience does as well, by looking at their counselor, who is your voice, and saying that you either oppose or you support the resolution. And I would like to look at my counselors and say, Brian Parkhurst, Ward 3, and I support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the list is Bill Mayer.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Okay, first of all, I hope this administration is not taking this as a personal attack on anyone in this administration. This is about Oswego and what this reassessment could potentially mean to our citizens. This reassessment by GAR Associates has put a tremendous strain on over half of our taxpayers. First of all, this is not Buffalo, Rochester, or any other large city. This is small town USA. This reassessment is totally out of line for Oswego based on the amount of taxpayers, on fixed income, disabilities, and job availability, and I mean high-paying jobs. I've read in the Pal Times that some of our administrators are losing sleep over this reassessment, yet are hesitant on canceling GAR's assessment contract, which termination of this agreement is in the contract signed by the city. About losing sleep, how would you like to be one of the hundreds of taxpayers losing sleep over whether they can afford an increase in rent, or a senior citizen or someone on disability by accident or illness wondering how they are going to keep their property, and we think we have problems? If we are so spent and upset over 22% of the 1,449 taxpayers overassessed, then if we have, I believe the amount is $14 million in our reserve fund, then for this year, why don't we figure out how much these people were overassessed and add the amounts together, and let's just say $3 million was the figure, then pay it out of reserve fund. It's our money anyway. Then nobody will have to lose any sleep. I know 1 year may not give the assessor's office enough time to catch up on all of these overassessed properties, but maybe 2 years would be, and using some of the information that GAR has supplied would help out. In the past, we not only had an assessor, but also a city appraiser. I don't know if we still do or not. Maybe it's time to bring this position back. This may help our assessor's office to keep up with the changing housing market, and may give the city the ability to bring our equalization rate back to 100%. I mentioned job availability in Oswego. I was talking to someone that told me that we were in high school together. This is kind of off the subject, but. So I got my yearbook and I looked them up. After I found them, I went to the back of the book and looked at the advertisements. What a surprise. I found that in 1974, there were 109 businesses that advertised in that book. Unfortunately, 87 of those businesses are no longer here. That means 22 survived, or we lost an average of 1.74 businesses per year. The sad thing is that's not the total of businesses lost over that time. Let's look at what GAR did to property owners who own a 33 by 100 building lot in the city. I've talked to several owners, and they told me that their assessments were $3,000 to $4,000. They went to $18,000. That's one building lot. A building lot is 3,300 square feet. There is a business in this city that owns 3,880,000 square feet, or 1,176 building lots, which should have a GAR value of $21,168,000. But we've been told that commercial properties have lost value. So let's say that the lots are worth $2,000. Good luck finding one in the city for that. That would mean the property would be worth $2,352,000. That's just land, does not include buildings or anything else. However, in reality, this property is assessed at $1.5 million. I dropped off to the city clerk today 746 signed petitions to rescind or pause this reassessment. The number was 746. You're probably thinking that is a small number of residents that signed the petitions. Let's understand why, in such a short time that we had to get signatures, the number was low. The answer is simple. People wanted to talk to someone to try to and understand the reassessment. For example, one day it took me 6 hours to walk 6 blocks, and that's not because I walk slow. It's because I listened to everyone that wanted to talk to me. Like a single mom who is struggling to work to bring her children, wanting to know how she is going to be able to afford an increase in rent. Or the senior citizen just about in tears wondering how they will be able to afford to keep their homes. I listened, and I believe all of you counselors are good people and wanted to be counselors to help our citizens. Then listen to your constituents. I believe if you do, you will vote positively on tonight's resolution to let the mayor put an end to this reassessment. As always, a reminder, your constituents put their faith, trust, and confidence in you, and not only to run the city, but to look out for the well-being of all the people of Oswego. Thank you for your time, and let me view my opinions. Thank you.
Rod Watson is next.
Mayor, councilors, my name is Rod Watson. I live on Country Lane in the 7th Ward. I can start talking tonight the way others have and tell you that my wife and I are retired. We live on a fixed income. We hope to stay in our own home until we just don't need one anymore. I'm probably going to change a bit when I tell you that we are in that nearly 24% have been paying too much in our property taxes. Before we get to be the forgotten 24%, I would like to tell you that I'd like that bit of unfairness, that bit of inequity to stop. I mentioned that we're retired and we're on a fixed income because I think it's worth pointing out that we are part of the same cross-section of the city that other folks who have spoke here. I think if you look at the 24%, whether they're retired, single parents, working couples, whatever they are, we're all going to be the same cross-section of folks, and this is all going to have some effect on us. There is a bit of irony to be pointed out here in that when we buy a home and with some reasonable maintenance, maybe a few improvements, we hope that it goes up in value before we or our heirs go to sell it. And that's a good thing until it gets to be reassessment time for tax purposes. And then it's not so well received. That being said, I've heard some numbers mentioned here over the last few weeks that are downright eye-opening. I hope those folks get their questions answered. I hope they get some relief through the appeal and grievance processes, and it comes to an end for them, a satisfactory end. There are also some givens here, and the biggest one might be that this is never, ever going to be a popular subject, property reassessment. Whether you do it now or rescind it and do it 2 years from now, the reaction is probably going to be very much the same as what you've seen here. And for that reason, I would urge you not to reject, not to rescind the resolution that authorized the reassessments. Thank you.
George Valentine.
Good evening. First of all, to follow up with what Mr. Parker said, Mr. Plunkett, the folks in the 6th Ward are especially affected by all the changes, by the sudden jump in the assessments. If you go to any map, you'll see, any city map, you'll see that there's this cross-section that runs into the 4th Ward as well as the 6th Ward, where the idea that we were under-assessed, the point that was made that we were under-assessed is especially strong. That's why the vast majority of these sudden jump of doubling assessments is especially rough in our 6th Ward and also in the 4th Ward. What I wanted to begin to talk about was we've come a long way in a short time, you and us. I remember when we first got here and there was the panel in front of us, and we were asked to sit and listen. That was back in the day when we were the peanut gallery. Remember that? But we're a proud community and a proud family here in Oswego. And as time went by, Mayor Corradino listened. I contacted each of you and I said, is the City Council powerless? Are you impotent to be able to do something about the sudden jump in the assessments? And by jump, I don't mean 50% or 60%. Many of the people that you've talked with or who've called you, their assessments went up 200%. But Mayor Corradino was the first to really listen and understand. And Mr. Hill spent hours and hours listening and finding that there really was truth to that. The dozens of people that he met, time and again, he found that people were assessed at incredible rates, that there were abandoned homes that were being assessed at $150,000. You know that story. You've seen that yourselves. And all this time, the proud people of the city of Oswego also came and did their part, coming to you and talking and meeting you in grocery stores. And now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. I want to give a brief thanks and a brief applause to Councilman Gosick and Finucci for having the courage to take the next step. Please, just a round of applause. The point has been made that the properties have to be reassessed. The issues that were raised first in June of 2014 have a point. Have a point. And I believe that there's an understanding that assessment will be done. But thank you, first of all, for paying attention and not staring into your computer screens at the moment. Thank you for listening and understanding that there's a problem that needs resolution. Folks, we are home to one of the great SUNY universities in the university system. My mother, my uncle graduated there and became teachers for life. But you guys are not the Education Council. We have the largest rolled aluminum factory in North America. We have some of the best nuclear power plants, some of the best hotels in all of upstate New York. But you're not the Business Council. I sure hope you're not the Business Council. You are, Oswego was a city before Chicago became a city, but you're not the City Council. You're the Common Council. And you're here to do right by the common folk. Since we're all fans of Jimmy Stewart, we're the ones who do most of the living and dying in this town. And you need to do right by us. You need to do right by us, not just for us. Oswego will survive whatever is done tonight and the following council meetings. But you really have to look at the people who are affected. And you do that every day. Just look at the faces of the people who are going to be affected. You know about the elderly who are wondering whether or not they'll be able to, how long they'll be able to stay in their house if the assessment is what GAR says it is. You know the young families that are buying their first house. You've been there, buying your first house. You know what that's like. And suddenly the assessment is through the roof. You'll see us long after the vote is taken, and you'll wonder, did I do right by those people? Deep down inside, you'll already know the answer to that. Best of luck, fellas.
John Gozick.
Evening, Your Honor, members of the Common Council. I've had a lot of things I wanted to say tonight. Some of them have been spoken about already, but to respect the gentleman that spoke about being in favor of defeating this resolution, I'd just like to say he mentioned 22 or 24%. What about the 75% that are affected negatively? What about the 75% that are afraid, that are scared? My sister has taken ill and has a house over on Elm Street, and her assessment went up almost 3 times. Her daughter's with me tonight and expressing the concerns that they had and the fear. This not only had a negative effect financially, but it had a negative effect mentally to 75% of the people that you represent. They're scared. They don't know which way to go. It's confusing. And right from the beginning, I don't think any of the counselors or any of the public is against a reval. Everybody recognized that to be done. In the first meeting that I came to, I said we could do it in-house like we did before. So no one's saying don't do a reval. No one's questioning the concerns the council and the mayor have about doing a revaluation of property. It's how it's been done. It's about a company named GAR that, in my opinion, did a terrible job, because almost everyone that's coming in to Mr. Hill, he's having to reduce it before we even go through the grievance process. So that tells me that GAR didn't do diligence, that they didn't do what they were paid to do, and that's why I said get rid of GAR, go back to the way it was always done, do a comprehensive reval of each property. Look at the homeowners, look at the properties, look at the neighborhoods they're in. I'm not, so to kind of respond to the gentleman in favor of defeating the resolution, he has the opportunity, that 22 or 24% have an opportunity to come in and have for years for the process. But I don't know if they've come in or not. If they haven't come in, but they were concerned about their property assessment, then that's on them to come in and question it. So that being said, in a democracy, I was always told that the majority should rule, that these councilors represent all of the people in their ward. Well, if 75% of your residents, of your voters, of the people that voted for you, are against this and only 25 are for it, how can you not listen to the 75%? To address Mr. Plunkett in particular, a gentleman that I know is friends with my son, work together. I know him deep down inside to be a good person, and to appeal to his sense of judgment as president of the council, I hope he takes the opportunity tonight to show true leadership. I'm not saying there's any backroom discussions or anything's been pre-decided, but what I'm saying to Mr. Plunkett, as I know is a friend and a good man, please look at this. Please listen to the public that voted you in and take the leadership role that I think you can do and become a leader and vote in a positive way for this resolution. The rest of the council, I hope they're listening to the residents in their ward. But I've only spoken to 2 people across the whole town that have been in favor of this reval. One was a gentleman tonight, who I very much respect his opinion, and another one was a First Ward resident, an old friend of mine, and he said, well, after I got talking to him, he kind of went believed what I was saying. So from the very beginning, a reval is possible, yes. Could we do it in-house? And someone else mentioned possibly hiring an appraiser. There used to be an assessor and appraiser in the budget or in the charter. I don't know if that still exists. But, and the mayor is a personal friend of mine and his family. This is not being disrespectful to the mayor, but in the paper he said that how can we sleep at night knowing that 22 or 24% of the people are appraised or assessed unfairly? Well, my answer to that is, what about the 75% that are overassessed unfairly? I sleep better at night knowing that 75% would be better served. So that being said, I'll appeal to all the aldermen to please support this resolution, because there's a way around it. Thank you.
Mary Louise?
Hello. I have a paper for everyone to read, if I could have permission to pass it around. Thank you.
No.
You're not.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I did speak a couple of weeks ago, and I'm one of the seniors in our community, coming here in 1970. My assessment went up 3 times, from 55,000 to 166, over 3 times. These are my thoughts. If you could- 1, assessment increase is 3 times the current value. 2, resulting taxes will more than double the current taxes. 3, I'm a single retired housewife living on a small fixed income. And I'm a senior citizen. 4, a large part of the income that I have is rent of my townhouse. I receive from the single townhouse. I only own 1 townhouse. Number 5 is the unreasonable assessment resulting in the unaffordable taxes will result in the loss of my property because I live on low income. And I'd have to pay $4,000 in taxes over that, which is crazy. 6, the current and prospective tenants. I do have some tenants. I have to have tenants to pay the water bill. I just paid the property taxes, $800. The city. My tenants are unwilling to pay the unreasonable rent. The current prospective tenants, they're unwilling to pay the unreasonable rent. I would have to charge to keep up with the tax increase, even if I were to take no income from the rent. Now, number 7 says, right now, the realtors will only list the townhouse at close to its current value, 1/3 of the newly assessed value. If you look it up, you can see all the realtors on Google, what they think my house is worth. It's not $166,000. Now, 8, even the aggressive investment of the proceeds from the sale would decrease my income to the level of poverty. 9, I would be unable to pay my own food, utilities, and home property tax bills. Because besides the big water bill that we have to pay, we're paying, a city tax too, plus property and school. And I feel like I'm really, shouldn't have to go out and work at my age, And so in 10, I just said I would appreciate if you not accept or approve this inaccurate and unfair assessment, which GAR did, done by these people who are neither residents of our locality nor knowledgeable of our true property values. And 11 is, please, begging you to save the property for me. I've had it since 1986. And I brought my city tax thing today. Thank you very much.
Looks like Stewart?
I'm Major Robert J. Stewart, Jr., whether I look like it or not. I'm a retired Air Force, Air Base Ground Defense and Security Forces regular major. That means I was on active duty for over 20 years. My commission is for life, and the Secretary can recall me to active duty at any time. Fair warning, if you hear I have been called back to active duty, find someplace in the wilderness, because we're in real trouble. I'm 76 years old, and due to a tour of Asia that lasted 1 year, 2 weeks, and 3 days, but who was counting, I'm a 70% disabled veteran. I'm also a retired public school, high school science teacher. There's some discussion as to which career might have been more dangerous. I'm speaking for an elderly, low-income property owner. HIPAA protects the identity of a disabled tenant. His or her identity could be discerned by association with the property owner. That's why I'm speaking in their stead. The tenant suffers from emotional problems that have never been explained to me. The tenant has a spouse who works part-time, in addition to being a full-time parent and homeowner and housemaker. There are 3 children, 6 years old and younger, in the house. The tenant, his or herself, holds down 3 part-time jobs. The tenant holds down 3 part-time jobs. Altogether, the family's combined wages barely support their needs. The property owner has been accommodating the family's higher needs by minimizing the income derived from the property. Should this unreasonable new assessment be adopted, the tenant could not afford the required quadrupled rent necessary for the owner to retain the ownership. The property owner points out a two-tiered damage assessment that will impact upon the community, first the owner and then the tenant. First, with the erroneous increase in property taxes, the owner can never attract renters at a highly inflated rate. This would result in the owner's loss of the property. Second, the handicapped tenant's family would face pending homelessness as they search for affordable housing within a reasonable commuting distance from their jobs. There is a real possibility that both the homeowner and the disabled tenant could become homeless due to the council's disregard for so many citizens' legitimate protest and similar requests for relief. I repeat the homeowner's oft-repeated pleas to this body. Quote, please take action that saved me my house of almost 40 years, end quote. The property owner wished to reiterate from past public pleas to the council that the property's assessment was reevaluated and the current property value and taxes were revisited 4 years ago. The assertions reassessments had not been completed in, quote, a long time, end quote, are false or at least inaccurate since a recent, quote, leveling of the playing field, end quote, was conducted fewer than 5 years ago. There is no purpose for the current reevaluation of assessments. There was no state mandate. There was no citizens' uproar. There was no justification for using a foreign assessor having no familiarity with the locale, its idiosyncrasies, and its character. There was no justification for the almost $1.5 million expenditure. There was no good reason for the council should legitimize or accept this unnecessary and flawed assessment, and the assessment should be voided and trashed. Thank you for humoring me.
Janet Anderson.
I'm Janet Anderson. I live in the 3rd Ward, and my home was appraised in September of 2021 for $174,000, a bank appraisal. My assessed value last year was $168,900. My new assessed value is $300,000. My home is not worth $300,000. Oswego's made many improvements over the past 10 years that I've lived here, and it's become a much better community, I think, but I don't think those property values that have been assessed by GAR are accurate in any way. If they had reasonably assessed properties in Oswego, there would be no issues. We wouldn't be here tonight. From all the data I've reviewed, from speaking with many of my neighbors and learning about their assessments, the council meetings I've attended, it appears their method of assessment is very flawed. And I would like to say I would like the resolution to pass tonight. Thank you.
Last name is Orta. Is it Lorna? Bonnie? Lana?
Good evening. I'm Lana Orta. My assessment too went from bearable $65,000 to $180,000. I recently became a widowed wife and living on paycheck to paycheck with the water bills, electric bills, and trying to beautify the homes around here. I just don't see it. I've been told by one of my children that I should put a sign on my house because the assessment is just too unbearable for me as well as others here to be able to afford that. Thank you.
Joe Doviak.
Good evening, everyone. I've been a adult lifelong resident of the 7th Ward. My wife and I started out in Presidential Park. We currently live in Trillium Gardens, and we've afforded the luxury of watching the 7th Ward expand over the last 50 years. I also had the opportunity to work with former Mayor Jack Fitzgibbons and former City Assessor Tom Galloway. And I learned a lot from both of those gentlemen working in their offices, particularly in sales, but also in helping with appraisals. So that's just to give you a basis of where I'm coming from. Councilors, specifically to you, most of you, I've been watching all of the YouTube presentations on, the public addresses and so forth. And I realized that a lot of you had nothing to do with hiring GAR associates. But, unfortunately, you have to deal with everything that's been dumped in your laps as a result of that mistake that was made a few years ago. And hopefully, you will do the right decision for what's best with the city, and particularly what's best for the Oswego citizens. I wanted to just give you a few brief facts that I came across in looking at the increase in assessment that was put on my property by GAR. My assessment went from $165,000 to $272,000, an increase of $107,000. So I says, well, I'm an attention to detail type guy. I says, I'm going to go out and look and see what's the basis for this $107,000 increase. And I came across a lot of interesting points. The first one, you've all heard, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I go to GAR's website. They have 5 properties that they're using based on recent sales. Of those 5 properties, 3 of them where the picture of the property should be located is the statement, no photo of this property available. I then go and look at the similar assessments that GAR provided on their website for my property. And first of all, they list 80 different properties. Now, you know as well as I do that they didn't have the time, or from what I've seen of their work, the effort, to look at every one of those 80 properties. So as the homeowner, tell me which of those 80 properties did you use to come up with comparable assessments of similar properties to value my new assessment? Of those 80 properties, 59 had no photo. Now, if I go to the Oswego County Real Property Tax Office over on the east side, or on my computer at home, every one of those properties had a picture. GAR, for the amount of money that we're paying them, or did pay them, couldn't take the time to coordinate when they're in the data collection phase of their work to get the pictures of the property. How do the poor people in Oswego do an informal review with GAR when unless they get out in a car and drive around or walk around to these properties, they have no idea what the property looks like. Is it very similar? Isn't it very similar? Another big void in an appraisal company in terms of what they should do to provide you with accurate data. We were paying them, we're looking for fair and equitable appraisals. And everything that I found, that wasn't happening. There was a property, once again, one of the 5 that they used in recent sales to peg a new assessment on my property. It was sold in June of 21 for $253,000. So I looked at it, and it's larger than mine. The lot size is larger. And in appraisal, what you want to do an excellent job or an accurate job is to get properties that are most similar to yours. Particularly the 2 big things are square footage of the house and square footage of the lot. And this particular house, was double the lot size, and square footage-wise was about 200 square foot more than mine. I then looked at the 2024 GAR assessment for that property, and they've got it pegged, their new assessment, $415,000. So in less than 3 years, they must have found oil on this parcel or something. In less than 3 years, that assessment is going to go up that much money. Other things they found were the difference in land value in neighborhoods. Now, the 7th Ward, I'm not talking 33 by 100-foot lots. I'm talking about the lots in Burlington, the lots in Trillium Gardens, the lots in Kingsford Woods. And I find that, for example, in the Burlington area, there was a lot, I'll get the exact numbers here, 155-foot frontage by 290 feet deep. Their increase in land assessment from 23 to GAR's new amount, $2,500. About 3 or 4 houses down from this particular parcel was a house on a lot 100 by 205. That land assessment is going to increase by $21,500. Now, this is in a development that's been there since the early 70s. So you got to figure that the assessments were pretty close to what they should have been, particularly the land value. But GAR didn't think so, apparently. Another thing, this was a property, once again, when I was looking for the information about my comps that I came across, there was a house bought in 2007 for $205,000. It appeared on the 2008 assessment rolls at that figure, which is what it should be. Most houses, when they sell, the price that goes on the assessment roll is the sales price of the house. The 2023 assessment was $220,000. So in 16 years, the assessment on that property went up $15,000, which is a pretty good deal for that homeowner. The 2024 GAR assessment is $265,000, a $45,000 increase. Compared to my property that increased, the assessment increased twice during that 16-year period, and my property, according to GAR, should be $107,000 more next year than it currently is. So another strange thing of how GAR is coming up with these magical numbers. The other thing that was truly, truly amazing as someone who's familiar with appraisal, I went to, like I said, when you check a property, for those who haven't been on GAR's site, you can check recent sales, you can check assessments of similar properties. So on this property, it only went up $45,000 according to GAR, and it, in addition to not having gone up that much over a 16-year period, I went to the page where all of the recent sales should be listed. And there's no easel here, but the page was blank. How can that be? An appraisal company or an appraiser who's worth anything should be able to come up with an appraisal. And in this case, if I was doing it, I would have used the reconstruction cost of that particular property. Look at the square footage, the style of the house, compute what it would cost to build that house with today's building costs, and then make an adjustment back to the year that that house was actually built. But no, GAR took the easy way out, blank page. terrible, terrible appraisal work. Moving on, that's enough of GAR. I just, just looking at a few properties, it was amazing the things that you could find. And my question is, how many other inequities appear in the 6,558 properties that they reassessed? And I say, I think there are a lot more instances of this type of valuation. Now, I'm going to move away from GAR, as I said. What I think we're in is we have a tail wagging the dog situation. And my friend John Gosek, who I was in school with, took a lot of my thunder away on this particular thing, but I'm going to just briefly comment on it. And I sympathize with our former neighbors from Presidential Park about being overassessed. That population definitely has to be taken care of. But that's all I've heard in all these YouTube presentations that I've watched. The 20%, 4% that overassessed. Didn't hear anything about the 76%. That 24% definitely should be taken care of. But the 76% are being affected by this whole process and this GAR data, which is unfair and inequitable. So that 76% has to be represented by each of you also, so that they're fairly assessed and not having their assessments doubled or tripled or even higher than that. Just another comment, and I don't want it to be disparaging against my former neighbors, but the city has an excellent policy, which I've taken advantage of over the years, where when you receive a new assessment on your property, in May, you can challenge that assessment. And that seems to work very, very well. And I haven't noticed in any newspaper articles in the recent years in May where there was a ton of people showing up at these May assessment challenge meetings. So, not that there were some people that went or were afraid to go or whatever, but there is a process where someone can challenge an assessment. In this case, with my former neighbors once again, that population definitely has to be addressed because you want a pretty level feeling. The other thing, and in speaking with the mayor a week or so ago, I explained to him that when you set an assessment roll on July 1st, that assessment roll is a snapshot of what the citywide property assessments are on that given day. The next day, it's going to start to change. There are going to be new houses that are currently being built that will be added to the assessment roll. There will be vacant properties that will be torn down. And now it's not a residence or any type of a structure that you're going to be assessing. It's going to be a vacant lot. So just remember that too. You're not carving this in stone. It's going to change almost immediately. Back to the assessment challenge. So looking at reports of how many people showed up in May the last 5 years for assessment challenges compared to the number of contacts that each of you have gotten from your constituents since they received their GAR letters. It's like night and day. So that should be another red flag. Now, I've said enough about what's wrong. What can we do about it? Okay. I paid my city tax last week. Okay? And up in if you look at it, when you pull yours out, when you go home, In the upper right corner, the assessor estimates the full market value as of 7/1/2022 as $198,795. Now, I realize there's a year in between that figure, 2022, and what we're talking about today. But how can you explain that this is 198,000 and GAR's figure is 272,000? That's unbelievable. Now, if the city were to take that fair market value that's listed on the 2024 city tax, that would bring your uniform percentage of value back to 100%, which is where you want to be. It would also, across the board, probably have everybody's assessment, other than those that are overassessed, increase by less than 20,000, as opposed to the 100,000, 200,000, others we have figured. So using that number, plus, I'm hoping that GAR, and I haven't seen this anywhere, provided you not only with 24%, and that's it, they gave you a specific list of properties that make up that 24%. So the other step to this solution would be for our local, our city assessor's office, go out to verify each of these overassessed properties, that indeed they are, and then make any necessary adjustment to be able to correct that part of the equation. I appreciate you listening to me. I hope you make the right decision and think of the 100% of citizens or homeowners and what this whole process that we've been going through, how it's affecting them, and, you know, support the resolution that's going to be coming before you. Thank you.
Cindy Snyder?
Good evening. You'll have to excuse me if I repeat some of the points that have already been made, but I also came to the conclusion that some other people, including the gentleman that just spoke. First of all, Resolution number 190 was passed at the June 27, 2022 Common Council meeting, in which GAR Associates was hired to do a reassessment for the city. In an article in Oswego County today, reporter Shay O'Malley, dated 6/28/22, GAR will complete the assessment, the cost of the project spread out over the next 3-year budgets, was reported. The 2022 budget comes in at $75,000, period. Nothing more was said to disclose that the cost of year 2 would be $300,000 and year 3 would be another $75,000. It wasn't until the article written in the Pal Times by Ken Sturts last Wednesday on April 17, 2024, that the total cost of $450,000 was actually revealed to the public. Several times during the different forums that we've had, Common Council meetings, when the 4 people were here, homeowners asked that question. And no one in city government spoke up with the answer. And many of you signed off on it because you were aldermen in 2022. So you must have known the answer. And I just wanted to ask the question, where was the disclosure, the honesty, the transparency that the public should have known that the total cost was $450,000? It would appear that there was erroneous and misleading information put out about this reassessment right from the beginning. At the committee meeting on June 21st, 2022, then City Assessor Jennifer Teresi told the group that GAR will begin by measuring every parcel in the city, confirming square footage. They will also collect data on inventory, which she meant improvements. And GAR will sketch the parcels as well as obtain photographs, both of which are required by law. The reporter had this in their article. It also said that Teresi said that once the assessment is complete in 2024, it will come before the council, who will then vote on whether to accept the revaluation results. Now, taxpayers are being told that that isn't the case. So I would have to think that because the reporter put it in their article, she must have told you all that when she was presenting the information about GAR and the reassessment. So the city taxpayers are being handed a bill that amounts to almost $500,000 for this reassessment. The question is, who's minding the store? What members of city government are making sure all the parameters of the contract have been completed by GAR? Who is confirming the accuracy of the information completed? Who is making sure that there is not missing information on every property's improvements? Like the gentleman that just talked said, if you look at the ProSGAR website, there are numerous city parcels that say, quote, "No image found for this parcel." And I have looked at different neighborhoods around the 7th Ward and other areas of the city, and there are numerous parcels, there are no photograph of that house or whatever's on that property. There was supposed to be current photographs of each property. Where are the photographs? And what other information is missing that was supposed to be provided by GAR in this reassessment? You've already talked about the 75% versus 25%. So if you take 6,500 parcels in the city, 25% would be 1,625 that are supposed to be in this 25% that are overassessed. How many of these parcels are commercial properties and how many are residential? Is there a certain section of the city that has a large number of overassessed properties? These are questions that the public has every right to know the answers to. The 54% of properties that are having their assessments increased exponentially, according to GAR's evaluation, are being treated like every homeowner repainted through their whole house, put in new flooring and fixtures, and generally spruced up the exterior of the home like they were being readied for sale. For most homeowners, this is not the reality of the condition of their homes. Most people live in their homes as they are. They are not continuously updating and putting in new materials, yet it seems as if that is what GAR's assessment programming is presuming. The sad part of this whole thing is that Oswego's come a long way in the last 8 years. People are taking pride in their homes again. They're making them look nice. They're redoing the landscaping, putting in flowers, repainting. And this is going to be a shame if people can't afford to stay in their houses, number one, but also if this is going to be detrimental to people actually taking pride in their house and home and fixing them up and making them look nice and taking pride in their neighborhood. And I think that's going to be a repercussion if these high values go through. I'm in agreement with Mr. Gosick and Mr. Vanucci on this needs to be looked at again. Thank you very much.
That was the last speaker that had signed up. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Again, Your Honor, sorry for not bringing this before, councilors, but one thing that I don't know if it was mentioned, the young lady that just spoke touched on it, but there was a tape of a common council meeting or a committee meeting. I'm surprised Bill Myers didn't bring it up, but It was a tape of Jennifer Teresi speaking, and her last comment was, "Please understand, counselors, you do not have to accept this reevaluation. You do not have to accept this." So I just want to make that crystal clear. The tape is available of her speaking if the counselors don't remember that. So this isn't set in stone. It's not illegal to do what we're talking about. It's very legal, and please be our representatives. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, I see somebody in the back row. Your hand up? Yeah. Somebody in the back row? Sorry, second from the back row.
Honorable Mayor, Council, good evening. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to Mayor Cordino for the proclamation honoring our firefighters. My great-grandfather was one, badge number 14 for the Oswego City Fire Department. He didn't die in the line of duty, but he did pass away when he got home from fighting a fire. He dropped dead of a massive heart attack. So it means a lot to me, as I'm sure it does to everybody who supports our fire department. I am also appreciative, Mayor Cordino, of your efforts in exploring the restoration of the Ponzi building. The substantial sum of nearly $500,000, which was allocated to GAR Associates, could have been more effectively utilized for this purpose, or even for the construction of much-needed softball fields. I am confident in the mayor's ability to find a solution for the building's restoration project, a project of significant importance to our community. I understand that Mayor Cordino is going to allow a resolution to be presented to pause or rescind the reassessment for now. I applaud him for allowing it so we can know where some of our silent council members stand and for allowing democracy to work. Thank you, Councilman Gozick and Councilman Vanucci, for taking on this initiative. I'm sure there was a lot of work that went into it. Before you consider the resolution, there are a few things that the residents or even some council members might want to know. We've been told that 22% of homeowners have been overpaying the property taxes and subsidizing the remaining homeowners, but we've not been given figures. And why is it our fault if your previous assessor wasn't aware of this? Isn't this what we pay an assessor to do? If indeed you, not us, have overcharged some homeowners, we should not be punished for your mistakes. At the least, you should spread this alleged shortfall over a few years rather than a one-time payment. We have to tighten our belts, and you should be tightening yours. Every dollar counts, even if it's just a city employee driving the family to Chick-fil-A in Clay on a Saturday afternoon. I have no street light or sidewalks on either side of the street, but I pay for those who do. I paid for the infrastructure in Kingsford Woods and one of the other housing developments where city traffic really doesn't travel. Have you considered the number of businesses we residential property owners subsidize so they can enjoy pilot agreements? We encourage business to locate here. We market for them, only to give them tax breaks. It's so hypocritical. How about the number of homeowners who don't pay their property taxes, their school taxes, and the state mandates us to make the school districts whole? For the 21-22 school year, we, the taxpayers, paid $293,295 to the school district to make them whole for those who didn't pay. For the 22-23 school year, we paid $275,000. That's what the city paid the city cut the check on behalf of us taxpayers. We pay that. So it's really not fair to say that, 22% of the population homeowners paid for us, when we've certainly paid our fair share for others, many others. And the other thing that I'd like to bring up is that the public, and maybe even some of your council people, don't understand that the money is used to buy back the foreclosed city properties so they can be sold to families and friends. The county treasurer's office gave me the 2022 total. The city paid $19,291 in back taxes and $2,105 for the deeds, for a total of $21,396. That's just for the county taxes. That he told me that does not include school and the taxes owed to the city. And according to the former mayor, the reason for not wanting these tax delinquent properties to go in the county tax auction, where they would typically go, and bidding can get quite high, was to keep them from becoming rentals. Yet city records show at least 5 properties were sold to landlords. Another was sold to an immediate family member of an elected official of the city. Rather than awarding these bids to the highest offer, it was based on intended property use, which again was mentioned at the meeting. It was to keep it away from landlords. We did not want and need more rental properties. Some of these properties were sold for $500. I'm not finished from doing all the work on this because there's a lot of tentacles to this, but it appears this wasn't to the benefit of the taxpayers, but rather to a select few. And I want to say that I did check with my mortgage company. My assessment went up to $158,000. I have asked the assessor if I could get it lowered to $145,000. I was just appraised 3 years ago for $123,000. And that was after I replaced a porch, but I extended the roof, and I replaced a broken cement patio in my backyard with new cement. I repaved my driveway because, as Mayor Cordino knows, I had damage from a city tree that he was able finally, after years of trying to get it removed, got removed. But I had a lot of damage to my porch. The tree was diseased. It had gray sap falling all over my porch, all over my driveway, all over the cars. And so I was forced to do a replacement. If you walked down my porch, you would literally walk out of your shoes because you would stick there. So I called my mortgage company, and I was told that the most that I could get, that they would refinance me for, was $140,000. I have no problem with my taxes going up. My city tax bill went up anyway, so I don't know how that happened, but I did have a tax increase on my city, $131 it went up. Which was offset by my water sewer bill going down. But the thing of it is that this is too much too soon. And people can't afford it. I can't afford it. My homeowner's insurance has doubled since COVID because of the price of lumber and everything replaced. And I just wonder, if I go home and rip the siding off my house, will you lower it? But for so many people, they can't afford this. And I know I really can't, because I can't afford to do a lot of the things that I used to do. And a lot of people can't. So while we're trying to help businesses, I think we heard that, we're hurting them. Because so many people aren't going out to dinner anymore. They aren't going to the movies. They aren't enjoying life because we're too busy saving money to pay our property taxes. And All I ask is that you reconsider this and think about the people that you're hurting and the people that you represent and your constituents. And I know that there are some who are not responding to their constituents. My middle son is one of them. He's been ignored and ignored, and he's one that's going to be lowered because he lives in Kingsford Woods, but he still opposes this because of what it does to everyone else. So that's all I have to say is please don't vote for anything other than your constituency. And that would be 76% of the people. And I'll tell you, as a news reporter for over 3 decades, I've covered local, state, and national governments. And I can tell you something, when you hit people in the wallet, they'll hit you back. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I stand here today. My name's Gary Thompson. I live at 27 Hart Street. I stand here today with my daughter, Caroline Thompson. She's a 4th grader at Kingsford Park School and a member of the Student Council. I brought her with me today because I was one of the persons that walked around with a petition that Councilor Gozick and Bill Myers started. My daughter went around door to door with me. We spent hours talking to residents. She wanted to participate, so we did. We did a home drive that drew hundreds of people. We had some great conversations. But I can tell you what, that was one of the most heartbreaking petitions I've ever done. The stories of people that are scared and nervous. $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 hypothetical tax increases. And that's just a bottom starting point because we know school taxes go up, city taxes go up naturally due to budgets and contracts. So your hypothetical tax increase is just your starting point. And hypothetically, it's scary. When the real numbers come in there, it's going to be even scarier. So we spent a number of weeks talking to people, on average 15, 20, 30 minutes. We educated people how to challenge their assessment. We encouraged them to talk to Kevin Hill. We encouraged them to call all of you. You know, this assessment really hurts people, the majority. We even have people that are going down sign because they have a family member that's been affected by this. You know, I moved back here in 2018. I left my elected position. I was doing good where I was. I was enjoying where I was. But what the past administration did drew me back here. This is where I wanted to raise my family, where I grew up. And I'm lucky I get to raise my kids across the street from where I grew up. I grew up in the 5th Ward. The line's down the middle of Tallman. I'm in the 7th Ward. And all I want to be able to do is afford to make my kids' dreams come true, you know? And we bought our house in 2018. Our assessment went up 2 years later, like $15,000. No problem. That's a fair deal. Another year later, it went up another $8,000. No problem. That's a fair deal. You know, this time $93,000. That's 3 times since 2018 that I've been hit. 2 times I agreed with. This time I don't. You know, I'll be able to absorb the cost. I can just keep working overtime. I'm a public service worker. My wife's a public service worker. We're blue-collar people. I'm the president of my union that represents blue-collar, good-working people that are barely getting by because we're serving the public at a reduced cost. Because any public service position pays less than private sector. That's a known fact. And this town's made up of public service workers. Your DPW, healthcare, police, fire, college workers. We're all blue-collar workers struggling to get by. And as my daughter witnessed, when we were going door to door talking to the seniors, the veterans, an 83-year-old guy told me that he just wants people to afford to die in his home. And he's facing $4,800 extra, hypothetically. And he's just asking for one last wish, to be able to afford to die in his home. Should someone in their 80s have to say that, This whole process, right? I came here the first time and gave a speech. I was the very first speaker. I never knew the stories I would hear and the treatment I would get here. That's a story for another day. But the stories I would hear is absolutely heartbreaking, and I'll never forget. And I hope that we can get through this. I know a lot of our seniors won't. When Detroit did a reval in 2019, 10% of the homes foreclosed. What if 10% of the homes foreclosed here? Market, it wouldn't be good. We'd be losing 10% of our community. We can't have that. So I want to thank Councilor Gozick and Vanucci for taking the hundreds of hours and researching, talking to people. And the first meeting when it was said to the public that once we signed with GARD, nothing could be done. There's nothing the council could do. The council is off the hook. When I went through the contract, it was pretty clear that the city could terminate the contract at any time. But I'm the one giving misinformation. That's okay. We see where the misinformation is now. I would encourage all the council moving forward, next time you vote on something, have that contract in your hand. I know some council members never even saw the contract. It was very detailed and lengthy, gave you all your options. One of the options was to terminate at any time. And I encourage you tonight to terminate the contract and think of something more in a longer plan, 5, 10 years. Don't hit us all at once. Give it to us in little pieces, So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, my name is Michelle Saunders. I wasn't planning on being here tonight. Something very interesting happened to me last week, and I felt called to come again, yet again, with a different book and different words. I met John Gosick totally accidentally. The last 2 times I've seen him was right before these meetings. And it's like, is this coincidence? Is it really coincidence? Is there such a thing as chance or coincidence? I don't think so. I read the Word of God every day in a chronological Bible. And the day that I met John was April 19th. And this is what I read. I'm sure that you know that Saul was the first king of Israel, and in his last battle against the Philistine, he died, and the last words that are said about him is, "So Saul died for his unfaithfulness, which he had committed against the Lord, because he did not keep the word of the Lord, and also because he consulted a medium for guidance. But he did not inquire of the Lord, therefore he killed him and turned over the kingdom to David, the son of Jesse." I'm not going to talk very long. I just have a quick little page that words that the Lord gave to me over my period of prayer and reflection over the weekend. And I come with a great deal of reverence because I know exactly why you're sitting there and who chose you to sit there. As we know from Romans 13:1, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. That is my belief. I come here with respect and reverence for you. Those of you that know me and that I know that I care deeply for you, and I'm concerned for you, and that I feel that this whole situation that is happening in this city, you may think that you have a responsibility to us, but I tell you not so. You have a responsibility unto God because of the position that he has placed you in to execute righteousness and justice. So your decision, obviously, we've heard from a lot of people over the past council meetings, all sorts of different meetings. You have heard there's going to be some people who are going to be winners, some people are going to be losers. But one of the things are certain, if you go forward with this decision, some people are going to get hurt. You don't know these people exactly. You don't know what are going to be the consequences on them personally. But one day, people are going to come up to you and they're going to say, "You remember when you passed this bill, and this is how I got hurt." And that brings me to the story of Zacharias. You know the short man there that went up the tree because he wanted to see Jesus? And basically, what did he say, after he saw Jesus saw him? He says, "Come down, I'm coming to eat at your house tonight." And he said in Luke 19:8, "But Zacharias stood up and said to the Lord, 'Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount.'" So basically, this guy was a tax collector. It just so happens he was a tax collector. And he knew that he wronged the people. So is confession going to be enough in front of God one day? For the harms of people you don't know yet, the harm that's going to come unto people? Is confession going to be enough? It seems not. It seems repentance is part of the situation, but there's also the making things right, giving up half of what you own, and after that, paying 4 times what you took from people. To me, that seems like a pretty impossible debt. It's something that I would not be able to live with, and I don't envy your position. So again, tonight you're making a serious decision. And in the industry that I work in with Peter Allen, when we have some very important decision to take, we always use an independent third-party reviewer to make sure that we're extra careful not to make a mistake. So when you make this decision tonight, I encourage you to think about what God said about Solomon in Kings 1:3 and verse 12. He said, "I give you a wise and discerning heart so that there will never be anyone like you, nor ever will be." And one of the first things that this King Solomon said in Proverbs 1:7 is, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." I just pray that the Lord would get a hold of your heart. There's time to review what was done and to make changes. It is possible to do that. I ask you for my neighbors, the single parent mothers, the widows, my friend Alex, who's at St. Luke's battling with cancer, Judy, who's at the hospital, who can't be here, all people that are vulnerable, that need our support. I just ask that you would consider backing down from this for a short period of time to perform a review to make sure that things are done correctly with justice and righteousness. Thank you.
Is there anybody else before we start the meeting? At this time, we're going to have a pledge of allegiance. Please call the roll.
His Honor the Mayor.
Here.
Counselor Walton.
Here.
Counselor Burridge.
Here.
Counselor Benucci.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Gosick.
Here.
Counselor Plunkett.
Here.
Counselor Allen.
He's excused.
6 present, 1 excused.
All right, thank you very much. Under the mayor's report, I just have one item. This evening, we honored firefighters because of the National Fallen Firefighters Week from May 1st to the 5th. But there's somebody else that I'd like to acknowledge and thank. National Volunteer Week is April 21st through the 27th. And it is an opportunity to recognize and thank volunteers who lend their time, talent, voice, and resources to meet the critical needs of our community. The city of Oswego is very fortunate to have all the volunteers who make our community a great place to live. People volunteer in many ways, whether it's raking leaves on Earth Day, driving a van for the VA, helping at the Human Concern Center, operating the city bookmobile, manning the visitor center, the city visitor center, or building ramps for residents with disabilities. Whatever you do, we are very lucky to have all these people who give of themselves in our community. Thank you very much, all the volunteers who do so much for our community. Are there any counselors that have anything they'd like to say at this point? Yes, Counselor Gosick.
Yes, I would like to ask permission tonight for the Common Council to waive the rules and consider matters that require action before the next scheduled meeting in the form of a resolution we'd like to present from the floor.
Well, we usually do that. Point
Yeah,
of order.
just a point of procedural order. I would recommend that that motion be saved for the conclusion of the meeting. That would then be in order, as you know, Counselor, that we generally take those matters up at the end of the regular published business meeting. So I think it's Resolution 118. I think Resolution 119 would be a proper motion to make to waive the rules to consider matters without first committee approval.
We can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the council? Seeing none, please call Resolution 111.
Approved minutes, Common Council meeting held April 9th, 2024.
Counselor Benucci, Counselor Walton, any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Benucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Please call Resolution 112.
Appoint Commissioner of Deeds.
Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Walker, any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Benucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Please call Resolution 113.
Approve use of public space, Adrian Zaharas, owner of single-family dwelling located at 61 West 4th Street, to install new steps and a landing.
Counselor Gosick, Counselor Burridge, any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Benucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Please call Resolution 114.
Approve use of public space, John Salazzo, in order to host the Go Skate Day event to be held June 21st, 2024.
Counselor Burge, Counselor Vanucci. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Please call Resolution 115.
Authorize public hearing regarding proposed submission of Restore New York grant for the Ponzi Building Rehabilitation Project.
Counselor Burge, Counselor Walker. This you might have heard or seen on, in the newspaper, if you get the newspaper, or if you subscribe to social media. The Ponzi Building is a building over on, over at the Ford area, and it had been used up until about 7-8 years ago, primarily by the Y Youth Center. It's a building of historic consequences. It was part of the original Ford area, and it's in disrepair. And during the last 8 years, we've had some higher priority projects that we really had to take care of first, but it's come to the time when I've discovered that there was this Restore New York grant that really described what we need to do with that building to a T. So I'm asking tonight for permission to proceed with applying for the Restore New York grant. The grant is $60 million in the city of, for the whole state. I'm asking for $1.5 million to restore the Ponzi building. There will be a public meeting, I believe, on the 13th of May, and I encourage anybody who's interested in that beautiful historic building to come and speak in support of it, or if you're not in support of it, you can still come. But the point is, we need to save our historic buildings, and this is the first step, at least in my administration, to try to save that building. So I hope we do get that support. Any other counselors have any comments about this item? Call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Call Resolution 116.
Authorize mayor to sign a lease agreement extension with Camelot Lodge LLC for the use of a storefront at 201 West First Street for a tourism center.
Counselor Plunkett? Counselor Walton? Any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Call Resolution 117.
Authorize mayor to sign an agreement with Fisher Associates for parking and transportation study, and further authorize the city chamberlain to complete a budget amendment to the police department contracted services account in the amount of $28,200 for same.
Counselor Vanucci, Counselor Burge. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Please call Resolution 118.
Authorize city chamberlain to complete a budget amendment to the celebrations contracted services account not to exceed $30,000 for the barge for the Harbor Fest fireworks.
Counselor Walton, Counselor Vanucci. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Please call Resolution 119.
Waive rules of common council to present resolution number 120 from the floor without committee consideration.
Counselor Burge. Counselor Burge. Counselor Vanucci. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Please call Resolution 120.
Authorize mayor to sign an agreement extending the memorandum of understanding with the town of Scriba for the operation and maintenance of their water department.
Counselor Burge, Counselor Plunkett. As you may remember, last year we entered into agreement with the town of Scriba to help, as the resolution says, for the operation and maintenance of the water department. Last year, the contract ends at the end of this month, and it will terminate, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a lapse in the contract, and this is to extend the agreement from May 1st of this year to the end of December of this year. So it's about an 8-month contract. And pretty much the same terms. There is an increase in the cost from $20,000 to $25,000 that the town of Scribeville will pay the city of Oswego for the maintenance of their water operation. Any questions from the council on this one? Please call the roll.
Counselor Burge.
Yes.
Counselor Minucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 601.
Okay, at this time, is there any other things that we need to talk about? Counselor Gosick.
Yes, I would like to ask permission for the council to waive the rules in order to consider matters that require action before the next scheduled meeting. And in the form of a resolution we'd like to present from the floor tonight.
At this time, I would like to defer to our city attorney because, as you know, Councilor Gosick, Councilor Vanucci gave us a copy of this last Monday, and all the councilors had a chance to review it and look it over, as well as our city attorney and our city assessor. And before we go any farther with a vote, I'd like to have the legal counsel chime in on a few points.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, just a matter of procedural order. Since the council waived the rules to consider the matter without first coming before the committee, I think that motion has been taken care of. So the actual motion, that was taken care of with Resolution 119, although that only waived the rules for Resolution 120. I'd like to know what the nature of the resolution, which would essentially be Resolution 121, what the resolution is, so that we all know, and then we can comment. You could have a debate on it, and I can certainly render a legal opinion if the mayor wishes for me to do that. So, but before I do that, before we have the vote, what are we considering, Counselor?
Yes, a resolution authorizing the mayor to reject the preliminary assessment roll submitted by GAR Associates, on the basis of which the city mailed 2024 preliminary assessment notices to property owners in the city of Oswego, to terminate the city's contract with GAR Associates per the contract signed by the city of Oswego, and to reinstitute the city's 2023 assessment roll, valuations at the equalization rate determined by the state, as set forth therein, as the city of Oswego's 2024 assessment roll. Would you like me to read the entire resolution?
I think for our purposes that would be important, since you are bringing this off the floor without committee consideration. And I don't recall, has there been a motion and a second to this resolution yet?
There has not been a motion
Okay.
in a second.
All right.
Make a motion to present the resolution from the floor.
Need a second? Councilor Vanucci, second.
And may I proceed? Or like me to read it now?
Yes, I think that would be in order.
Okay. All right, whereas on or about March 1st, 2024, the city of Oswego published the 2024 assessment notifications for all properties in Oswego as provided by GAR Associates under the contract between the city of Oswego and GAR Associates entered in on June 29th, 2022 for a citywide revaluation of real properties there and after being voted in by the council on June 27th, 2022. Whereas the city of Oswego has an obligation to its taxpayers to ensure fair and transparent assessments and thus taxation, which is particularly important at a time of financial stress on both residential and commercial property owners, as well as their tenants, all of whom will be adversely affected by unfair and unsupported assessments. Poverty levels and fixed incomes of the residents of the city have raised concerns about property affordability due to the outrageous increase in assessments. Whereas, since the issuance of the 2024 assessment notifications by the city, many taxpayers have complained of inaccurate inventory, unsupportable land assessments, in particular neighborhoods, poor representation of real property values, and other significant errors in information published by GAR Associates on their website on or about March 1st, 2024, which cannot be resolved through individual property grievances at the Board of Assessment Review. Whereas the 2022 City Assessor Jennifer Teresi advised the Administrative Services Committee members that the legislative body did not need to adopt the revaluation, and according to New York State, this revaluation process was not mandated or even necessary. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor being hereby is authorized to A, terminate or pay off the contract between Gar Associates from upholding professional standards under the contract and providing an assessment role that is not fair and equitable, and B, instruct the city assessor to adopt these valuations of real property set forth on the city's 2023 assessment tentative roll based off the pre-decision equalization rate determined by the state of all said real property in the city of Oswego as the city's 2024 assessment roll. And be it further resolved that the city chamberlain is hereby authorized and directed to utilize said 2023 valuations as the 2024 final tax roll of the city of Oswego.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to defer again to the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Cordino, members of the council, and the public assembled tonight. For nearly 2 months now, I've listened intently to the public comments provided in connection with the 2024 citywide revaluation of properties. Each of us who owns real estate is impacted by the Common Council's decision to authorize the hiring of Gar Associates in June of 2022. Around March 1st of this year, most of us in this room received a notice required by New York State law to be provided, setting forth the change in our property values for assessment purposes. The exercise approved by the 2022 version of this Common Council was long overdue. Much has been said regarding the requirements to undertake such a project. To be clear, the City of Oswego is not required to pursue a full revaluation of properties, but it is necessary. More on that shortly. I have been present for each of the public sessions where our residents have aired their grievances over the manner and approach utilized by Gar Associates in producing their preliminary figures. I understand the concerns expressed, the confusion proclaimed, and the frustrations shared by many. Assessing property is a complex issue. Most attorneys don't understand it. I don't proclaim to understand all there is to this process. But there are certain truths, certain facts that we can all understand. The fact is, assessing is a function of New York State law. Under the real property tax law, the authority to assess real property for purposes of taxation is vested solely in the assessor. The Common Council has no authority to substitute its judgment for that of the assessor, nor does the Common Council have jurisdiction with respect to hearing and determining complaints of property owners. In fact, the very definition of an assessor established under Real Property Tax Law Section 102, subsection 3 states, and I quote, "Assessors mean an elected or appointed officer charged by law with the duty of assessing real property in an assessing unit for the purposes of taxation." But please do not take my opinion as the final authority on this issue. The statement I just made is an opinion over 50 years old, first rendered by the State Board of Equalization and Assessment on July 3, 1972. For those who are prone to do their own research on this matter, the opinion can be found in Volume 2, Opinions of Counsel, SBEA number 29. Moreover, the opinion goes on to say that the state legislature has delegated the exclusive authority to assess real property for purposes of local real property taxation and to prepared assessment rolls for this purpose to local assessors. Indeed, real property tax law section 500 starts off with these words, quote, "The assessor in each city and town shall maintain an inventory of all the real property located therein, including the names of the owners thereof, and complete an annual update thereto on or before the first day of March. The physical characteristics of real property included in such inventory shall constitute a public record and shall be available for public inspection and copying." End quote. Recently, it was learned that an effort would be brought forward at this meeting seeking to introduce a resolution for consideration by the entire Common Council that calls for the mayor to terminate the contract with GAR, quote, "from upholding professional standards under the contract and providing an assessment role that is not fair and equitable," end quote. The resolution goes on to state, quote, "instruct the city assessor to adopt those valuations of real property set forth in the city's 2023 assessment final roll based off the pre-decision equalization rate determined by the state of all said real property in the city of Oswego as the city's 2024 assessment roll," end quote. The resolution concludes by authorizing and directing the city chamberlain to use the 2023 valuations as the 2024 tentative tax roll of the city of Oswego. For many reasons, the actions contemplated by this resolution are completely and utterly nonsense. First, truly, it does not make sense. It is grammatically incorrect, it is unsupported by the law, and if adopted, it would place the city of Oswego squarely in the crosshairs of a constitutional legal challenge. The action contemplated by the resolution completely ignores the exclusive authority of the city assessor. It grants authority to the city chamberlain that she does not have, and the only thing it does is authorize the mayor's ability to terminate the contract with GAR Associates. From a practical circumstance, such authority is misplaced. Why would the Common Council authorize the mayor to terminate a contract that has already been completed or substantially completed? Again, the action does not make sense. But again, don't take my word for it, please. Many of you may not know this, but the resolution proposed tonight was taken nearly verbatim from the city of Hudson, who experienced a similar revaluation in 2019, performed by GAR Associates. The City Council offered a resolution with language strikingly similar to the language proposed tonight, and the City of Hudson's Council voted to rescind all of the work performed by GAR. However, the mayor vetoed the resolution and offered the same opinion from the state that I have shared with you tonight. The mayor of Hudson recognized that the action contemplated by the City Council was illegal and unsupported. Some may say that veto may have cost him his job later that year. So I'm left to question the motivation of the members of the council and the public who are pushing to consider this resolution. Why would you endeavor to bring to this floor this action, causing confusion for those who are trying to navigate the assessment process, when you've had full knowledge that the community you're trying to emulate was not successful in reverting assessment values to pre-reassessment numbers? Why would you continue to provide false hope to your constituents and neighbors when you have been advised on countless occasions that what you are doing, what you are advocating for is not only illegal but directly violates the oath you took to uphold the laws of the state of New York? Oftentimes, doing the right thing is not always the most popular. Some may call it a profile in courage, if you like. I call it good governance and leadership. GAR is not the assessing authority. They have been hired to provide technical assistance to the city assessor in coming up with new values for all real property located in the city of Oswego. In fact, if the assessor were to simply adopt the data presented by GAR, the assessor would be derelict in his duties. He has been anything but. Allow me a moment of personal reflection. In the 30-plus years that I've been representing municipalities, I have not witnessed another assessor who has gone out of their way to address each and every property owner who has availed themselves of the opportunity to talk about their property values, as Mr. Hill has. His door has been open, not just to taxpayers, but the members of this council as well. Many of you have taken the time to meet with him. Some have not, but I understand that those who have made the effort to fully understand the process have been able to advise their constituents more effectively on the basis of fact and not rhetoric. And if you do not agree with the value that your assessor places on your property next week, you have remedies to challenge that value. Avail yourselves of those remedies. Help your neighbors if you must. With the time spent ginning up the community with a baseless petition and now nonsensical resolution have been better used to assist our elderly and disabled with filling out their informal objections to the GAR data. Or next week, help others prepare for the Board of Assessment review and then the small claim assessment review process. There's no obligation to do so, of course, but isn't that what living in a close-knit community is all about? The city of Oswego.
Smile when you say that, Kevin. Smile when you say that.
Please let him finish.
I've sat here through hours upon hours of meetings, listening intently, respecting your comments. Please respect mine. You don't have to agree with them. In fact, I know you disagree, but you're going to listen to them. The city of Oswego has seen monumental growth and improvement over the past 8 years. And there's much more work and things to do and look forward to. The revaluation of properties was long overdue and necessary to increase the collective value of our community we call home. These are the growing pains of a city on the rise. And we will help each other through these times and come out better for pursuing this effort. 8 years ago, phrases like, well, we've always done it that way, and we've never done that before, were eliminated from the lexicon of city government. The resolution proposed tonight brings us back to before those days and represents a defeatist attitude. We cannot return to those days of complacency. We are better than that. In conclusion, please recall when Mr. Hill offered that he was relieving you of any responsibility for the revaluation. He was not kidding. With respect, this common council has no authority to overturn the action taken in June of 2022. It has no authority to instruct the assessor to return to 2023 values. The common council has no authority to direct the city chamberlain to supplant the obligations reserved exclusively under New York state law to the city assessor. For these reasons, I recommend the resolution be denied. To be clear, vote no on the resolution seeking to rescind the revaluation process. There is no basis in law or fact that would allow you to consider taking any other action tonight.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask any counselors that had anything they'd like to say. Now, remember, the public just spent an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes expressing their opinions. Please respect what the counselors have to say at this point. Thank you. Counselor Gozick.
Yep, thank you. Where to begin here? I guess I'd like to start first of all by addressing our city attorney's question. Why would you endeavor to bring this resolution to the floor? I'll tell you why, Mr. Kirkholy. Number one, because local government is the last bastion of democracy in the world. In this country, we can't rely on our state or our federal representatives. It's a joke. Washington, D.C., Albany, but here in Oswego, New York, Mr. Kirkholy, you know what? We can represent our people. We have a duty
hear these stories. So I wanted to start by saying that. That's why, because we are the common council of the city of Oswego, New York. We represent the people that live here, that elected us. We represent those 76% of people. When I hear somebody say that the 22 or 24% of the people and 82% of those are property owned by commercial properties, give me a break. It's backwards. Aren't the commercial properties supposed to offset the tax base for the residential homeowner? We heard people say that this is a blue-collar town. This is a working-class town. This isn't Indianapolis. This isn't some Radisson. This is Oswego, New York. Blue-collar people. You think my father comes down here because he wants it because he's an electrician. He's worked his whole life, busted his, you know what? All these people out here, I know. Gary represents people stand up for workers. George, every single person out here. Mrs. Thompson, Mrs. Snyder, where is she? Michelle, Mrs. Saunders, all these people here. The regular working day people. I represent the people, not the rich, not the business community. I'm here, and Jesse's here to represent the people. Some of you guys can't say that. Some of you guys can't say a word. You're not speaking up. You're not coming out and talking to people. You haven't made a word tonight. I want you guys to vote for this, and I don't care what the legal opinion is of our city attorney. You know what? We are the legislative branch of government. The legislative branch is separate from the executive and the judicial. Let the legal do the legal afterward. You know what? Other communities like Ogdensburg, like Hudson, they have passed it, and they can belittle us and say that, oh well, other places have done this. You know what? We say the courage to stand up and represent their people. Okay, that's what they want to do, some legalese to overburden this community with these outrageously inaccurate, erroneous assessments by a company that has totally, if nothing else, has not done their due diligence this community for the money we paid. I can go on and on. Somebody has to put the contract in it. You know what? We weren't provided with the contract. You want to dig up? Let's dig up the old bones here. Okay, we weren't provided with that contract. Number two, let me give you the quote from the city assessor. Okay, I might talk longer than all you guys all night long here tonight. You got me worked up. Let me find a quote from city assessor. You can tell me what the fair is. So your legal opinion on whether the common council was lied to, whether it was misinformation, or whether she didn't know what she was talking about. Right here, it says at that meeting on June 21st, 2022, approximately 14 minutes and 15 seconds in. If you want to play it over there, you guys can tee it up in about 5 seconds. Let everybody hear this. Assessor Jen Teresi stated, quote, 2024 would be the roll year that once they provide the data when it comes to council, we can always say we are not going to adopt this. It's happened on some rare occasions, or we can adopt it, will be effective with the 2024 assessment roll. Okay, these are preliminary numbers. This is not a final tax roll. And as a matter of fact, we've been told it's in the contract. We were told, so somebody want to tell me legal opinion on what happened. Was the council lied to? Was there something we don't know about that we should know about? Would you like to address that? Because we have it right here. We have it in the contract, and we were told that. We can watch it if you want to tee it up.
Okay, all right, I don't think we need to watch it. We believe what you said there. Is there...
I'm going to get an answer right here. Then you'd like to know the 22% of the people on that list. We got a mic, pull it up on the computer, and tell us who they are.
All right.
Put it up on your screen tonight.
John, please calm down.
Why not?
Please calm down. I'm a little worried about you, John.
I'll ask you tonight. I would like a legal opinion from the city attorney on what the council was told in 2022 at that meeting. We were told we didn't have to adopt these numbers. All these people want to know, and hundreds and thousands more that are watching out there on TV and on YouTube would like to know as well. Can you tell us? You've got a lot to say. 10-page legal opinion. It's only your opinion. If we make laws here, the Oswego Common Council, legislative branch of government, they have to just think about it, guys. The Supreme Court, how Congress, you can't pass a law. No, they pass a law, and afterward, they can rule that it's unconstitutional after the fact. But don't tell me we can't pass a resolution here tonight that 75% of the people in the city want, maybe more. And I'd like to know. Right here, let me read you one other quote I have. This was in a letter this weekend. We asked to put it on the agenda. We sent it to the councilors. We sent it to the mayor. And the mayor, quote, said in a response to Councilor Vernucci, your decision to push this resolution is certainly within your rights and powers of common council. However, I don't agree that you and your fellow counselors have the legal authority over the reassessment process. What I would say is this, that there's a misconception here, okay? The misconception is that Councilor Benucci and I don't favor reassessment. We do, we've heard it tonight. What we need to do is a true revaluation, where we hire appraisers, they go our input. You heard Mr. Domiak tonight, he went to that website, he told us at length, all the egregious errors, the lack of professionalism on the part of GAR associates. We're opposed to the methods used by GAR, we're opposed to the numbers presented by GAR. That's why we're asking the mayor to reject GAR's preliminary. As far as I know, as far as we've been told by the former city assessor, by the mayor, the council can reject GAR's reevaluations, and that's what we're asking for here tonight. I'm asking the other councilors to seriously consider, this is your legacy, guys. This is gonna be what you're remembered for all time. You can stand with the people of the city of Oswego, or you can stand and hide behind the executive branch of government and hide behind legal opinions thrown out from our city attorney, or you can stand up and you can face the people and you can walk with your head high next time you go into Big L, next time you go to Roscoe, next time you walk in Price Chopper, because believe me, nobody's ever gonna forget what happened tonight in this vote, and whether the mayor wants to ultimately, if we pass this resolution, you guys are willing to stand up and show them courage and find them things to do that, then let the mayor decide. And he can decide if he wants to listen to the people or if he wants to go it alone. Just like the mayor of Hudson that got canned. Just like other mayors and city assessors that after voting and rejecting the council opinion in different cities, what do? They resign, they step down, or they were kicked right out of office because they could never get elected again. So.
John, would you like to hear from your fellow counselors at this point?
I'm not done yet. As a matter of fact, I'd like to appeal to their sense of fair play. Okay? This is about what's right. You heard Ms. Saunders.
Mayor, I call the
about
question.
quote the Bible. Okay? The reality is this is about what's right and wrong. This isn't politics as usual. Yeah, I will yield the floor.
Thank you.
I've said most of what I want to say.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Any other councilors have anything to say? Councilor Walker.
Thank you. Do I agree with the assessment? Your prices? No, not at all. It's my floor, thank you. We got legal. We're going by legal, and I'm going with legal. He knows it, I'm sorry, but that's the way I'm doing it. It's an opinion. Excuse me. Mayor, take control. Take control of the floor.
Like we said earlier, the public had its chance to talk. Please let the councilors express their opinions. It's their turn. Councilor Walker.
My assessment went up. Yes, it did. Did I go up and talk to Kevin Hill? Yes, I did. Did I get anything? Not really. I'd like to. I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm going legal. I took the oath to go legally, and I'm doing it that way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Walker. Councilor Burridge.
Mine's going to be a little bit more personal. I understand your guys' feelings. I understand everybody's feelings. I got the same notice. My property went up 100%, both of them. I bought the property 15 years ago for $40,000. It was assessed at 81. It went up to 163. But here's the problem. Everybody in the city of Oswego that puts their houses on the market are getting above what our tax rolls are showing. There's no way to, you can say that that's not a fact because that's the actual truth. Are you telling me that my house is not worth 163? I wouldn't sell it for 163. I'm pretty sure I'd be looking at over $200,000 for that house, maybe more. This is where people want to come to live, in the city of Oswego. This is where we belong. This is our place. But you have to understand, with that comes the possibilities of people, new businesses, new everything coming here, looking to come here. Our property's going to be worth more. We're not the only city going through this. The entire country is. Where I was raised, when you got Time Warner Cable and your neighbor got Max and Showtime, he was responsible for paying his bill. I'm responsible for paying my bill. Do I like it? 100% I don't. Don't like it, not a single bit. But do I think it's right?
Do I think other people should have to pay my bill? No, I don't. That's not right. It's my responsibility. I'm a grown man, and I'm going to take responsible. Do I have to be the bad guy here and do this? I feel bad that I do that, because yes, there's people out there that are hurting. A lot of people. And in a few years, I'm going to be in the same boat they are. I'm hoping that my money sitting in the bank and my pension is going to last me, when maybe my house is going to be assessed 3 times that too. I don't have an answer. But what I do know is these properties are worth this. They're not saying, I haven't heard anybody say, especially the higher one, that if somebody walked up to them and offered them that kind of money, they wouldn't take it and run and be happy about it. My son just bought a house in the city of Oswego. On the tax roll, this is gonna be guesswork, $59,000. He paid $147,000 for that house. Now his taxes are gonna go up, or his evaluation is gonna go up to $147,000. Why should he have to pay it, and the guy next door to him, who is still valued at $69,000, doesn't have to? Why does his house have to be almost as much as mine, and it's not even close to being the quality of my house? We need some fairness. We need some place to start, and this is it. I'm not saying this is a perfect answer. Nobody is. Nothing is. But at least it gives us a place to start and a place to advance. Everybody still has advantages to come in every May, get this thing taken care of, and try to get it straightened out. Do I agree everything that GAR has? 100% no. I'll be the first one to admit it. Did they make mistakes? 100% yes. But you're talking 7,000 properties. 7,000 properties in the city of Oswego. That's a lot of properties. How long would you think it would take for us to evaluate and assess all on properties? At a value of $400 to $500 per house is what a real estate agent would cost you to come in and certify that. Times that by 7,000. That's $2 million, over $2 million. The way I look at it, it's a start for us. And I know it's not perfect. Nobody can say that. But we have to do what's right for everybody in this city. Everybody. Nobody should be paying our bills. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to hear from, Councilor Walden.
The matter of assessments has certainly been a difficult process for all of us. So first off, I do want to commend all the councilors on the floor, no matter whether we see eye to eye or not on this process. You know, it's been a long few months, listening to constituents. So no matter where that kind of chip falls tonight, I want to commend everybody. Assessor Hill has also done a commendable job with trying to meet with everybody, continue this process, even after tonight, going towards the grievance day on May 28th. Part of rejecting or rescinding this evaluation isn't just rescinding the work the GAR did, which we can all admit was far from perfect and not what we wanted to see, and not what I believe the previous council before us thought was fully in the cards. But it's also rejecting the months and the long hours of work that Mr. Hill has performed as well. He has worked to correct a lot of these GAR inefficiencies, which, again, shouldn't have been there in the first place, but he's also put in that time and effort there too, which I think is important to also realize. We've all heard every gamut, from the good, the bad, the indifferent, the people for, the people against, and over every type of situation. I think it is on our behalf for the legal process and allowing Mr. Hill to continue to do his work and his efforts to help all the constituents within our city under what he is allowed to do. And while Councilor Burge said it as well, perfection itself in all reality is a goal that's far from attainable in any of these situations, when you're especially looking at nearly 7,000 properties. I want to make it clear, and I've said this to all the councilmen, the assessor, the mayor, and many of you in the room, and many of my constituents watching at home, that no matter the vote this evening, we must set ourselves up better in the future. I think it's very important that we learn from this, regardless of the outcome. Come together and truly make a path with community input on how to do better in the future. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there, and I think that's something that we should be listening to, again,
looking toward the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walton. I want to hear from each councilor tonight, so let's talk to, or listen to Councilor Vanucci. You're next.
So I wasn't on the council in 2022 when this was voted on, but it is something that I would support as a reassessment, a reval for the city of Oswego, and in a way that's fair and equitable, like we've all talked about. I spoke with a lot of these people here tonight throughout the last few months, through text, phone, Facebook Messenger, emails, and going door to door with John Gosick here. And I've heard a similar thing. For the most part, everyone has been upset by these revals, and we've been helping get these people to Kevin Hill. Kevin Hill is great. He's, one of the best city assessors I know. I don't know too many, but, he's been doing a great job as far as that goes. So this isn't to attack Kevin Hill, because he's been doing a great job, and we've been sending people his way the entire time. But we also looked into, is there something that can be done about this assessment? And so Councilor Gosick and I worked in this resolution to propose to the council, and we were hoping that we can get some support. It's a shame to throw away $450,000 on Gar Associates for assessing all these properties, but we're not necessarily throwing it away, because we could still use those numbers as tools to reassess accordingly, and whatever amount of years it takes, whether it's 2, 4 years, whatever it would take. So that's what this resolution is proposing. And like Councilor Walton said, looking for the future is very important. We have to make sure this doesn't happen again. 30 years down the road, no one's been assessed, right? So we need to make sure we have a plan for the future on that, whether this gets put through or not. We need to have a plan for the future. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor Plunkett?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everyone coming tonight. I haven't said much. As Common Council President, my job is to coordinate with all the other councilmen. I applaud Councilor Gosick and Councilor Vanucci for what they've done, what they've tried to do. I'm the 6th Ward. I've done everything I could for my constituents. I answer every call, every email, every text. I told everyone I'll take them up and see former Councilman Hill, the assessor, if they need to get things straightened out. I just feel we've come too far with all this, and I'm just trying to do what's best for the city and all their constituents. I appreciate former Mayor Gosick's kind words about me. I've known him a long time. Appreciate what all my other fellow councilmen have said. I just feel we're going in the right direction. I know a lot of you disagree with me, but believe me, we're doing the best we can.
All right, thank you. Maybe I can get the last word, or get a word in. Do you mind? Let me just, I'd like to just say a couple things. Tonight we listened to everybody here who had a chance to speak. We've listened intently and patiently to everybody for several meetings, as well as the public hearing that we had, which was almost 4 hours. And I take exception to some of the people who've said that they're throwing out numbers that are totally incorrect, and that we've provided information and data that proves and supports what we're saying. I heard several people tonight say that 24% of the people are going to get a break, and 76% of the people are going to be hit with a big tax bill. That is not the case. On that monitor right there, I had a table 1 and table 2, and it clearly showed, and I passed out hard copies as well, it clearly showed that 24% of the people are overassessed and would get a tax decrease. 25% basically was a push. It was either plus or minus $100. In the world of assessments, that's basically a push. That's hardly any effect. So that left about 51%, not 76% of the people. So I can, again, send you those tables again that I had up on that chart. So people are using numbers and figures that are not correct to support their position, and I think that's dangerous. Not just in the city of Oswego, but anywhere in this world or country, when you're using facts and figures that are not correct. So I don't have a vote here. I'm just giving you my personal opinion here. So at this point, is there any other counselors that would like to have another go-around? Counselor Gozick.
Speaking of dangers, what I think even more dangerous is something that's been alluded to. And you know what, I teach government, okay? I'm on the city council, believe me. We don't do it for the money, we don't teach. You don't serve the city government, the city of Oswego. You can look at the salaries, okay? But I take great offense. When we talk about dangers, the accurate numbers, let's talk about dangers to the very fabric of our democratic society, okay? One, we heard tonight, amazing to me, but to hear the city attorney mention we were ginning up the community with a baseless petition. You guys realize petitioning goes back to medieval England because the kings were absolute monarchs and they didn't listen to the people and people had no rights. It's enshrined in our first, you guys know the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? It's one of our basic police officers should know it too, hopefully. One of our first amendment rights, but we had a lot of them here recently for the, like George said, the peanut gallery, for the mob. Here we are, right? We should have some background music, that old Sesame Street song, the people in your neighborhood, right? Look out. I see Connie Desmond here, former mayor, you know, you gotta watch out for these people. But the reality, what's more dangerous than anything else is seeing our basic, most fundamental rights, like the right to petition for redress of grievances, being belittled. We've seen this, the MO, you guys have been at the meetings, right? The first meeting, the disdain, the contempt shown for the public, okay? You've seen it, right? You've seen it with my fellow councils next to me, for Mr. Toby, I don't know if he's here tonight, but I had cringe, okay? To see that. And guys, I apologize on behalf of no one else who has, and I apologize on behalf of the city of Oswego for their just atrocious behavior, the lack of respect shown to people. Let's go beyond petition, I mean the baseless petition. When people go out and exercise their First Amendment right, there's a reason why it's there. Those are declaratory laws. Those, I don't know if you guys realize this, maybe you don't because I thought you guys might need a lesson in government, but you realize the founding fathers of our country, the principles of nation were founded on, okay? Go back to the Enlightenment, go back to the idea of natural rights, okay? Just like going back to the medieval idea, the petition for hogwash, right? You know, we just throw out habeas corpus by right due process a lot, right? But the reality here is, guys, when we talk about this, the right to petition, there's no more sacred right than to have people come, and that's how the voices get heard, okay? When you have an authoritarian form of government. Let's talk about freedom of speech here for a minute, okay? And again, declaratory rights, this is the idea. The principle is government was set up to protect the rights of the people. What did we see? We hear reference to a question and answer session. One question and answer session. Okay, you've seen when I put an item up in discussion initially, none of my fellow councilors said a word. Okay, nobody defended. I went to Council Plunkett and said, make sure this is on the agenda. I talked to the reporter, Mr. Sturts for the Clean Times and told him, watch. You're going to see something that I saw in the Barlow administration when the mayor tries to control the legislative agenda. Okay, not in democracies, guys, not in republics, okay? Anybody here know what a republic is? It's when you have three co-equal branches of government, and they balance each other under separation of powers. We lost that under our last mayor, obviously. But you know what, we're not going to give any special dispensation to the new mayor. Really, it's a shame here, my counselors, you know, in line here. Obviously, the backroom deals and whoever's been talking, putting the bugs in the view, nobody really knows why. There's no help on supporting this. But let's talk about freedom of speech. Okay, when I wanted to have that discussion, everybody cowered. They're terrified of people. Why? Because public speaking, we see it from Mr. Parker. We see it from people like Mr. Valentine, Mr. Meyer, Mr. Thompson. Because when people speak common sense, they might just change people's mind. But when you don't listen, we see counselors look at their computers and somebody asked me, what's on those screens? I said, the agenda. Why was that guy looking? Why was this guy here sitting looking at his phone the whole time? To utter disrespect. I thought he might just be in a high school class, a senior, you know, trying to get them to not look at their phones or something, okay? The reality is, when you limit freedom of expression, freedom of speech, that's authoritarian. It's not democratic, guys. I don't know, maybe like the old world, in Italy or something, the Cordinos, you know, like if you get into that authoritarian move, not here in Oswego, not in America, the 21st century. Okay, so look at these are the basic, most fundamental rights our nation was founded on. And we've seen them curtailed severely by not allowing question and answer sessions. People have legitimate questions they want to answer. They shut them down. Let's put an online portal on. You can drop the question and that will silence the people. That's why we brought people there every night to speak and to let you hear what they have to say. To hear these heart-wrenching stories, hear the stories of people I visited. You might not remember Ms. Kaniski came last week, Judy Kaniski, and she talked about Jean Leonard, 91 years old, lives right down the street guys, like Mrs. Saunders said, you're gonna make your conscience. You guys marching step of the party up there, I'm announcing tonight that I am going independent and leaving the Republican Party. This is the worst example of party power. I am ashamed to be a member of this party. Whatever's going on behind the scenes, you guys enjoy your next party meeting. I quit the party altogether. Tomorrow I'm going to the board election, and I'm changing my registration to independent honor of Tennessee. I've had enough of this. Really.
Did you want to have a vote now?
No, one more thing I want to mention before it's over, because obviously, you can already tell where people are going on this. The last thing was, we need to talk about something else. These letters never should have went out. If this process wasn't supervised properly, that's what caused the problem. That's why our resolution addresses the fact when these letters went out, it caused a panic, it caused an outrage across the city, in my ward, across the whole city. And the reality is, because of the fact it's such a complex process, Mr. Hill has done a good job. I take nothing away from him. He's intelligent, he's competent, and he's gone out of his way to help you, okay? The reality is, even a seasoned assessor wouldn't have been able to carry this out single-handedly. And in the beginning of this, not even meeting minimum qualifications, okay, this should have been supervised before. Those letters never should have come out with the most inaccuracies, the errors. So everybody's praising what the city's doing. What it is we're not, at this point, we're trying to mitigate a mess that was created because it wasn't supervised properly in the first place. And that's why we are asking for the mayor, to authorize the mayor, to reject the preliminary assessment roll and go back to the 2023 roll. We owe it to the people. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It takes a couple years to hire appraisers, to go back out and do it properly. To really think about it and consider how you vote on this, I'm done, but
All right, you're done. All right, if there's nobody else, we've already had a motion and a second. I think you should call the roll.
Bring it from the floor, right?
We're go- Yeah, this is a vote to bring it from the floor.
Well, the floor, there's been Resolution 119 waived the rules to bring matter, Resolution 120 to the floor without committee consideration. I think that the Resolution 119 can be relied on to vote on Resolution 121. We don't have to do the, the resolution again. So the Resolution 121 is what Councilor Gozick stated, which, let me just reiterate, it's a resolution authorizing the mayor to reject the preliminary assessment roll submitted by GAR Associates, on the basis of which the city mailed 2024 preliminary assessment notices to property owners in the city of Oswego, to terminate the city's contract with GAR Associates per the contract signed by the city of Oswego, and to reinstitute the city's 2023 assessment roll valuations at the equalization rate determined by the state as set forth herein as the city of Oswego's 2024 assessment roll.
Okay, that's the resolution. We got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Counselor Walton.
No.
Counselor Burridge.
No.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
No.
Counselor Gosick.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
No.
Resolution fails 2-4-1.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Burridge, Councilor Plunkett. Please call the roll.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Vanucci.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gosick.
Yep.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Walton.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6-0-1.
Thank you, everyone.
Same.